You hear me? Yes. Okay, we're back, and I want to give you some practical information regarding the site visits. As you know, there are 4 activities foreseen in the afternoon. One is the capacity building that will be held upstairs in the Gamay room. And then we are going to visit 3 places. One is La Ferme du Parc Maximilien, and the meeting point is the lunch room at the end of our work here. Then there is the big aquaponic meeting group here in the plenary room, and for No Waste Republic, the meeting point is the registration desk. So be sure to join the right group, and we'll go all together. We still don't know if by public transportation or walking. We will decide, each group will decide how to reach the place. Now, work of the afternoon. We have to thank you all for the participation this morning, and we will have an overview of the work done by each parallel session. So, starting with the first group, Emmanuel, please.
So I'm Emmanuel Lagendic from INRAE Transfer, and I'm going to report on the session 1.1. Can you put the slide, please? C'est ça, c'est bon. So the idea of the workshop was to discuss on the FOODPathS manual for partnership, which is a huge deliverable. So we discussed in subgroup on each of the 7 components of the prototype partnerships, on which FOODPathS already gathered some results and recommendations. So the different components are the observatory, governance, operations, knowledge, experience, infrastructures, and communication. And I'm going to provide you some keywords and output from these discussions. So regarding the governance, we should not reinvent the wheel. The structure shall be understandable, including clear processes, and trust is also very important to make the governance running. Knowledge exchange is key, notably among partnerships, to ensure lifelong learning and education shall be taken into account. Also, the RIP concept shall be translated into reality, and learning by doing is also very important. Regarding experience, inclusion is key, but it's very important to integrate properly the different actors before allowing co-creation. Regarding infrastructure, there is a need to have a generic methodology, and it's also important to have a branding network not only for universities, but also for capacity building. Regarding communication, it's important to have a two-way communication, allowing regular feedback, and also innovative ways to organize workshops is a good opportunity to get feedback. Regarding the observatory, the discussion highlighted the need to clearly define what is an observatory, ensuring it's understandable to all stakeholders. And the goal of the observatory is not to monitor food system transition and not to monitor the partnership in itself. So there were a bit confusion. And regarding the operation, so I talk about this one at the end because this component include the modus operandi, which encompass several other components of the partnership. And the keywords raised are inclusivity, actors, flexibility, through frequent feedback loops to adapt to the reality on the ground, so social trends, market needs, scientific innovation. And so in conclusion, to make this manual usable, we need to make it operational and actionable, making guidance with clear narratives. Thank you.
Thanks, Emmanuel. And now is Yasmina van Driel to present session 1.2. No, it's not Yasmina. Okay.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a colleague of Yasmina. I'm Juliane Gleitse. I'm also from ZonMW, from the Netherlands, where we also coordinate the former joint programming initiative, Healthy Diet, Healthy Life. Maybe, I can do it myself. Yes, perfect. So in our parallel session, we had a discussion on the insights from the Funders Forum events that took place in Work Package 3. The basis of our discussion was this visual that we developed based on the results that came from the series of Funders Forum events. And we had 5 groups that rotated through the different stages of this funding cycle from the perspective of the funders. And I'm going to take you very briefly through each of the phases, highlighting what in our discussions came out as the most impactful points per phase. So first, the strategic programming. There, what was seen as most impactful was enabling longer, flexible, longer-term programming. And what's meant here is that going from project-based to thematic-based, bringing in all the phases of the research cycle. And this was, however, not seen as, see 3 minutes, not seen as the most feasible. The most feasible was seen as stakeholder collaboration. And I think in some areas we already see examples of this. Moving on to the second phase, research agenda setting. And here what was highlighted was having alignment. What's so important is creating a joint narrative between different strategic research agendas to avoid duplication and to really also bring the systems approach, that's also an important part of it, but to bring that into the narrative. Third point is designing calls. So here what was seen as most important was promoting systems and transdisciplinarity in call texts. And this was also seen as relatively feasible, and I think the Netherlands is a really good example because at ZonMW, transdisciplinary is a core tenet of the research calls that we put out. Number 4 is the proposal evaluation, and here what was seen as most impactful would be diversifying and training evaluation panels, but this, of course, is a very long process and very difficult. So instead, a good alternative to start with would be taking along the implementation potential, so evaluating implementation potential in proposals, and also revising, so taking that into revising evaluation criteria. And that would be feasible and impactful. And lastly, when the projects are finally running, funders still have a role, project support. And here what's integral is really connecting projects, bundling results. And we heard some really good examples like having transfer events with policymakers and researchers to connect them, having steering groups that support project management, having joint events between projects. So all in all, really, over all of the different stages of the funding cycle, we heard really good examples. But of course, a lot of work is still needed. And the next steps, now we're going to improve this visual. This is a concept, as you can see. So UFIC will do their magic, and we will hopefully then make it more usable, really, for funders in the partnership and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if I will be more lucky calling Ariane Voyatsakis. Yeah.
Thank you. So coming back to our knowledge hub, now I think you know what we're talking about. So we had a very interesting discussion about the futures of this knowledge hub. Many thanks to our participants. We also asked them if this knowledge hub, they think they would be useful, and the unanimous answer yes, so that motivates us to go on. So the first point was the importance of this knowledge hub to be inclusive, to gather all the components of living labs, all the diversity of living labs across Europe. and to have a common definition of living labs, because one participant notably said that even the living labs themselves don't know that they are living labs, so we have to share a common definition. So the main objective of this living lab is to facilitate connections between living labs, but no only, and especially towards citizens and policymakers. The content of the Living Lab might be around story maps, results dissemination, guided tours, webinars, live events, many things that can come closer Living Labs research to consumers and citizens, and also to help share experience between living labs, between actors of innovations. The second objective, very important, of the Knowledge Hub should contribute to policy definition and strategic reflection. As it is the objective of FOODPathS, one of the objectives of this Knowledge Hub is to help to strengthen food transition, food behavior and sustainability, so that there must be also a place to have such reflection and orientate policy in the European Union. So for all of that, we certainly need a moderator, not only digital tools, but we really need people to update the Knowledge Hub and to animate this community. We can start right now, thanks to Future Foods, this Knowledge Hub with the actual structure. But later on, we have the question of what will happen when the public support will end. We have to make a viable service. And for that, we think that there might be some part of the Knowledge Hub on free access and some other value-added service on a basis of membership fees, which mustn't be very cheap for to be more inclusive with small living labs. And the structure of this Knowledge Hub should be run by a non-profit neutral body in order to keep the spirit of the Knowledge Hub and FOODPathS project. Of course, we have to avoid any duplication and to work with existing initiatives like Clever Foods and not to have redundant things. So next step, we are looking forward to meeting you again on the 7th of October when we'll have a joint event with FOODPathS and Future Foods, and hope to have more concrete things to share with you at this occasion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. So now we can move to the second round of parallel session from the morning, portfolio management, science advice and education. What is the link with Paweł Kiemlinski?
Hello. I'm very happy to be the part of the consortium because I'm bringing some exercise to the language skills while pronouncing my name. I'm Paweł Kiemlinski from the Polish Academy of Sciences, and I have a pleasure to tell you very shortly about here we are. Okay, about the session that we are talking about, the portfolio management, science and advice and education, and the links between it. This is like to remind towards the RIP concept, like the research, innovation, policy, and education. So we were discussing it, and we are trying to answer 4 questions. So like how to better align public research agendas and the educational programs with the needs of different stakeholders. The second was about what infrastructure we can imagine or think of while bringing this concept into reality. The third is like we were asking the audience, our colleagues, how do they find the RAP concept as a guiding concept for the aligning all those activities, and how do they see the linkages between each parts of this approach. So we had a fishbowl session, and our fishes were discussing it like there was a very tough exercise. But for the aligning research and education, there's the clear concept that we need to focus on the soft skills and the system thinking to enable real collaboration between the different disciplines. So like how to introduce the truly system, food system approach. And there was one assumption that we are like well trained in our disciplines. And we are very well trained even in the communication, but we still need a better preparation for the teamwork skills, especially when we are trying to get together the people with the different expertise. Still, this is something that we need to do. And I guess FOODPathS is trying, like doing this exercise and trying to train that how to bring the people of a different disciplines that approaches different geographic locations and discuss about the one systemic approach to the food system, food development. The second was, of course, the how to align the research education was to introduce the practice abandoned curricula and internship. So that was the research and education, but also linked with the practical developments, so I integrate internships and, for example, do our thesis programs with industrial partners. For the future-oriented knowledge infrastructure, the ET food we found as a very nice example, their example of academies of offering the lifelong learning for students, professionals, and what was stress. Thank you, Sofia, for that. For the policymakers as well. So AT Food approach brings not only curricula, not supporting the startups and fostering regional innovation systems, but also like trying to keep the infrastructure, develop the infrastructure for the support the technology transfer. Of course, we brought the innovation getaways as a very important feature, but also the science policy interfaces, or maybe we're thinking about like maybe single institution, because we found that there is a vision on the agriculture and food, and there is more on agriculture than the food in it, and we are thinking if we are able to give the consistent advice to the vision about like the true food systems approach, that will be the part of the vision for the agriculture and food. Yeah, and so this is maybe some kind of the infrastructure, like the institutions should be developed, and also of course the very expectations were given to the living labs and the policy labs as those part of the knowledge or infrastructure where the food system approach can be tested and developed. Of course, everyone agreed that RAP is a very good guiding concept, but this is the largely conceptual right now, so we're working on it. But also yeah, okay. Yes, the infrastructure. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I thought that this. So like as a guiding concept, this has a potential to be the framework for coordination and trying to facilitate the education policy and research and innovation through the system thinking. But it needs to integrate the scientific expertise, and especially think about the interdependencies within the food system. So this is the very promising, but it still needs the further development. And another one, the last one is about the linkages between each of the parts. So through the what we do in our daily work. So we collaborate through the coordinated consortia and team-based transdisciplinary training. So for the takeaway message, RIP has the potential to be a strategic coordination framework, but it needs to be more institutionalized. And this is something that we work for. Work with and think about it. And the Pact for Skills and AT Food were given as a good examples linking the innovation education. And we still need to think like what is the basis at each part of the RIPE concept, so the sustainable food system approach. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And now the last one from the last session of, the second parallel session of the morning is Balance Pala presenting Inclusive Partnership in Real Life, a Major Challenge. Four minutes.
I should have brought my own timekeeping, but I'll manage. It's very difficult to summarize the insightful presentations that we had. I feel like I'm not going to do justice, so please forgive me. And we're probably going to be sending you notes, so this is just a drop in the ocean, if I must say. But from the panel discussion that we had this morning, dietitians play a crucial role in ensuring that healthy diets are not only nutritious, culturally appropriate, but also affordable, feasible, and realistic for all. So this is just to say we need to include them in our governance structures as well. And the call to action is clear. The EU must adopt policies aligned with these principles to build just, sustainable, and inclusive food systems. And trust and strong relationships are essential because without them, really, we cannot build anything. So they need to be built at the local, city, regional, and global levels before even thinking about implementing anything, because if there is no trust or expectations set, projects will fail for sure. And there was another interesting insight that while shared visions are easier to agree on, operate. I don't know how to say this word, but to operate them is more difficult due to rapidly changing contexts. And we had a key insight again, like understanding, I need to be moving, right? Back, forward. Yes. Understanding partners' perspective, their red lines, is crucial for effective collaboration and long-term success. And this just goes back to setting expectations and really just building trust. So relationship building is very important. And there's an urgent need for research and innovation to inform and support policy transition in food systems. I think in most of the projects you find that there is an assessment that takes place. So we need to also have relationship with researchers, but they also need to have relationship with us so that we can be able indeed to inform and support policy transition. And systems approach is essential. So bringing fragmentation across bridging or breaking the fragmentation across actor sectors and geographic divides. Research must be grounded in real-world contexts, incorporating experiential and practical knowledge alongside scientific evidence. And yes, and we had a fish bowl, and there was sharks and a lot of fish swimming into the fish bowl, and again, there were a lot of insights shared, but we have 4 minutes to summarize that. And from this came effective transformation requires inclusive science to policy interfaces, engaging civil society, the private sector, and local community. And dialogue is very important, and it needs to be open, based on mutual interest, and rooted in a willingness to understand the diversity of perspective on food systems. And building effective partnerships requires creating bridges both horizontally and vertically. Not all partnerships are permanent. So if you had partners in a project, don't like really hold on to them, because some relationships do come to an end. But dynamic, flexible networks that evolve to meet specific goals are critical. And expecting rapid implementation of food policy networks is unrealistic, because it really takes time to build relationships and also to just get to the implementation part of things. And lastly, I have a minute. Effective communication involves developing clear narratives that answer what is in it for me and understanding community contexts. Thank you.
Okay, now, since yesterday, we have seen all the puzzle pieces. We have analyzed them, brainstormed on them, and now it's the moment to bring all the pieces together with an interesting panel discussion and compose the puzzle to see how it can work in real life. So it's a pleasure to call Yasmina von Driel on the stage for this panel discussion. And she's making her entrance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to thank Matteo and all of the UFIC team for challenging me by giving me the most difficult timing session right before all the field visits, but it's also an honor because we have a great panel lined up for you, so I'm sure you will have no problem staying awake. So let me start by introducing myself, Yasmina van Driel. I've worked for many years in the Global South on land, water, food, climate challenges. And then I decided to shift my focus to the global north, working on nutrition, health, and food systems, given its footprint in the world. I'm a senior program manager at ZonMW, the Dutch health research funding agency, and I'm also the deputy coordinator of Healthy Diet, Healthy Life, which you could say is a partnership. It's a network, but it's also a partnership. I have many passions, but to name two, I think it's healthy and tasty cooking, and I really tried my best to hide as many vegetables in the meals that I cook for my children. That's one of my passions. And I also have a passion for elephants. Not elephants in Nepal or Tanzania, but elephants in rooms like this to kickstart uncomfortable conversations. So be aware. No, I think we're going to have a very nice conversation. I would now like to call upon our panel. And first of all, I would like to introduce Anna Bruin from ICLEI, although I think you don't need an introduction, Anna. I think many people know you, but just in case, you're a senior expert in biodiversity and nature-based solutions at ICLEI Europe. And Anna specializes in sustainable solutions for food and agriculture, supporting local governments. And her expertise spans nature-based solutions, rural-urban linkages, climate neutrality, and urban greening. And I'm sure you have many passions. Have a seat. And I would also like to then welcome Claude Yvain to the stage from ANR, and also the Future Foods coordinator. And I'm sure you also don't need an introduction, but Claude is the head of the food unit at the French National Research Agency, ANR. She joined ANR in 2010, and between 2021 and 2024, she was deputy head of department in charge of international affairs. She represented the ANR in several European initiatives on food systems, and she's currently coordinating the co-funded partnership Future Foods. Welcome. And then I would like to welcome to the stage Katalin Todt from the Joint Research Center, who I'm sure many of you also know. She has a background in engineering and finance, and Katalin has worked on many transdisciplinary tasks, like setting up and assessing viability of spatial data services, developing interoperability specifications for environmental information, and managing the EU Food Systems Monitoring Project. And last, but certainly not least, Simone Maccaferri from the Circular Bioeconomy Europe Joint Undertaking. He is a biotechnologist by training. Simone has a long experience as a research developer and partnerships manager in the food and bioeconomy sector. And having worked for about 10 years at the University of Bologna, in October 2022, Simone joined the Circular Bio-Based Europe Joint Undertaking as a project officer. Welcome. All right, well, so since this is a panel discussion, we have a couple of questions and statements lined up for you. And in between, we'll show a short video to also kickstart a conversation, and then we'll also have the chance for the audience to react through the Slido. But to start off with the first question, and I would like to ask the UFIC team to help me keep time. Thanks. I'm sure you have the sign somewhere. If we look back, because this is about putting all the puzzle pieces together, this is about the whole partnership. If you look at what you saw in the different sessions, I would like to ask you, what was the most insightful or maybe surprising or encouraging element that stood out for you if you look at these different puzzle pieces and the sessions around that? And let's start in reverse order when you came on stage. So Simone, may I start with you?
Yeah, thank you. Is it working? Yeah. So I think something that I think is very encouraging and reassuring is the awareness of being part really of a bigger picture. The fact that there is a real good cooperation between the work of FOODPathS and the work of the Future Food Partnership, I think is very important. And also I pretty much appreciated in the presentation of the parallel session that has been made before about the transforming the funding environment. I think that was really captured the need of moving from a project-based to a team-based perspective. Aligning funding is no more the focus. The focus should be really in creating synergies across the different funding programs at European and local level. Only through a cooperation, only through overcoming the differences and creating a commonalities of perspective, I think that the food system can be really tackled in a more holistic and more cooperative and therefore effective way.
Thank you, Simone. And can I move to you, Katalin?
Thank you very much. I am a bit difficult situation because practically Simone already has said what I wanted to say. So exactly, because what was more insightful and somehow reassuring for me is that this whole community, the FOODPathS community and more probably also the Future Foods, are very much aware of the complex character of the food system. And they are quite, I think that you are approaching very well the issue that you have to involve many actors across different levels, different sectors, different orientation, and it is, let's say, I think one of the factors or the key factors of success. So that's why I was quite happy to listen to these discussions. So I don't want to lose more time. Maybe I pass over.
Thank you. Well, from my point of view, I can see a common consensus that we can succeed if we build trust. Trust between actors, trust among ourselves to reach the goals. And we have many constraints, administrative, financial, and so on, but we should capitalize on the trust between us, the trust with stakeholders to achieve the goals, because we are all blocked in boxes, but we will not save the food system staying in our boxes, because the food system is extremely complex and cannot fit in a box. So I've seen yesterday and today that we share the same concern, and we should work on it to reinforce the trust between us and with the stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think of these analogies we've been using, and as we're putting these puzzle pieces together and hearing what the different pieces of the puzzle we're talking about the last 2 days, it sounds like the musicians were putting the puzzle together, and now we're tuning our instruments. And so I think that's very hopeful, and exactly like Claude was saying, some of these parallel themes have moved across the parallel sessions about trust and investing in time and looking beyond project-based to team-based and this interdisciplinarity. So it was very, I think, motivating to hear some of these common themes across the parallel sessions come out as the takeaway points. Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice analogies coming by here, and I like what was being said about building trust. That's very important. That also came in some of the other sessions, and I heard you say, Simona, that we need to look at the bigger picture and move from sort of different components to more long-term viewpoints and not just aligning funding, but really looking at the longer term and the bigger perspectives. And yeah, you were also saying that, Katalin, different perspectives coming together, that's something that's key in this partnership. And building a little bit on that and what was said, and I already mentioned elephants. So we talked about what was insightful, what you saw in the morning and in the afternoon. But what do you feel are topics that are missing from the or a topic or topics that are missing from the conversation? Or maybe, in other words, what are the elephants in some of the rooms that we've been to today and yesterday?
I can start, that's fine. I think in the parallel session this morning, we started seeing part of an elephant. I don't know that we saw the whole one, but we started discussing about how if we're having a food systems approach and the partnership is post-production, but I don't think we have had one conversation in the last day and a half that hasn't talked about farmers and production. And so the elephant, one elephant in the room, or part of the tail of the elephant, is how do we bridge this in the partnership or across partnerships? Yeah, I can leave it there. I can keep describing it, but I think I'd be curious to hear what the other elephants are.
Well, I fully agree with Anna, because, as I said, we have to work in kind of silos. The co-funded partnership Future Foods has to treat post-harvest, and we have just to stop before else, because we have era for else after. But we have to stick in our box and building synergies. But the major elephant is that we are a co-funded partnership. So that means to join, it's an investment. So we'd like to be inclusive, but we ask people, you want to join, but you have to invest, at least invest time, because we are co-funded. And well, the work of FOODPathS is just great on what is the best to achieve. But I keep in mind a sentence of the modus operandi is, we need enough resources to achieve it. And it's a major issue, resources. So we have to also keep this in the equation, because as you mentioned, Yasmina, at the session with the food bank, we need to value the skills, we need to value the time and the knowledge of people. So we need a way, because we cannot work without resources. So thank you.
Yeah, if I come, of course, I cannot deny that I am an engineer by education. And what I was missing a little bit from the conversations that how to frame, how to put all the pieces together. And for that, you need a kind of infrastructure, a tool, a conceptual framework, and shared vocabularies so that different communities can understand each other. When, for example, constructing a knowledge hub, that's fine that you can bring different types of information, documents, data, whatever you can imagine as a piece of knowledge, but if that knowledge is not properly documented, you don't have some harmonized descriptions, metadata, then in this case, the users will be not able to find the information. So this let's say, more technical aspect, I am a bit missing from the discussion, but maybe I am just saying this at the wrong place because you were more focused on the thematic part. Concerning this, it's very important that let's say the technology and the thematic part work together to achieve a good knowledge management system and a good knowledge hub and observatory. And what is even more important, that the process should be not driven by the technology people. You, as scientists, practitioners in different stages of the food system, you have to articulate what your requirements are, what is important, what must be emphasized during this the management of the system, and how things must be communicated. Fortunately, this last bit, how to communicate, which narrative to use, came in the discussion, and I trust that you will find out very good ways to provide good narratives and help the process go on.
Thank you. Allow me to be a bit provocative. This morning we listen. I listened a sentence that I not fully agree. One of the panelists of the morning said we have to think beyond economics. I think that building on what Claude was saying, if we need the resources, if the food system must have a trade-off between sustainability, quality, safety, security, this means that the system has to be economically viable and needs to gather sufficient investment from the private sector. The resources to make the innovation in the food system really going forward in the direction of the market cannot come only from the public sector. So I think that in some way the issue of the private investment, the mobilization of the industry, the mobilization of the funders from the private side was a bit the missing part in the discussion that was only partially present with the philanthropic experience yesterday, but should have been more emphasized because we need that in order to make the step forward.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for naming some of these elephants. I've heard, well, one of them is private funding and looking beyond philanthropic organizations is what you mentioned, Simone. And I heard you say, Katalin, which links to the presentation we had yesterday about narratives and changing narratives and how to frame and how to put all these pieces together and the conceptual framework. That was some of the things I heard you say were missing. And Claude, you mentioned something I think very key about co-funding and needing investment to be on board of the partnership, and maybe this is not feasible for everyone. So if you want to be an inclusive partnership, how do you deal with that? And of course, the production, the agro part. So I would like to challenge all my FOODPathS colleagues. We have 6 months, I think, to integrate all these elephants into, or to at least address them. So I don't want to worry you, Hugo, but I see you making notes, so I think that's good.
You have a collective intelligence approach that means that this is not a question for me.
we have some homework to do. All right, I'm just looking at my colleagues in terms of time. How are we doing? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. Then I wanted to move a bit, I wanted to bring in also my perspective in the sense that I was also thinking about, what are some of the things that struck me? And I joined the session before lunch on inclusive partnerships, putting the pieces together, but really looking at, okay, how can we be inclusive? And I think when we talk, why do we want to be inclusive? I think it's about getting out of our bubble or box, as you mentioned it, and getting out of our circle and having a dialogue with people that are different from us or that are not in the same bubble or in the same box. Because that helps to change our perspective. And when we change our perspective, we can do things differently and better than we did them before. So I wanted to show a short video, and this is about changing perspective and paradigms, and it's about research, but I think it can be taken into different contexts and we can learn from it. And it's a video by Professor Gera Nagelhout, and I'm looking at my notes. She's a professor at the University of Maastricht. And she specifically focuses on health and well-being of people with a lower socioeconomic position. So even though it might not seem directly food system related, there are linkages and synergies there. And afterwards, we'll go into some other questions. So.
Je hebt elke dag te eten, maar veel en echt gezond is het niet. Je hebt een dak boven je hoofd, maar je hebt geen geld om in de winter de verwarming aan te zetten. Je weet niet beter, want zo is het je hele leven al geweest. Dit is ook hoe je moeder en je vader opgroeiden en waarschijnlijk ook hoe je kinderen later zullen leven. Je woont in een heel fijne buurt. De veiligheid, de huizen en het groen laten te wensen over, maar de mensen zijn geweldig. In jouw buurt leeft iedereen van weinig geld. Maar jullie staan voor elkaar klaar en helpen elkaar wanneer dat nodig is. Samen met je familie, vrienden en buurtgenoten heb je over hun manier van leven en je merkt dat ze niet volledig open zijn. Je concludeert dat mensen met veel geld wantrouwend zijn. Daarna trek je je weer terug uit de rijke buurt en analyseer je de verzamelde data samen met je buurtgenoten. Je schrijft een rapport met aanbevelingen voor hoe mensen die veel geld hebben gezonder kunnen gaan leven. Je ontwikkelt ook een gezondheidsinterventie die volgens jullie onderzoek perfect aansluit bij wat mensen met veel geld nodig hebben. Je hangt posters op in de rijke buurt en gooit flyers door in brievenbussen om ze te vertellen over de datum en locatie van de eerste bijeenkomst. Maar niemand komt opdagen. Je concludeert dat mensen die veel geld hebben gezondheid niet belangrijk vinden en niet willen luisteren naar goede adviezen. Hoewel dit misschien een extreem voorbeeld lijkt van iets wat in het echt nooit zou gebeuren, is dit exact wat we in het gezondheidsonderzoek nog veel te vaak zien. Maar dan natuurlijk andersom. Onderzoekers die in het dagelijks leven nauwelijks contact hebben met mensen buiten hun eigen rijke en hoogopgeleide bubbel, die proberen om mensen in een lagere sociaal-economische positie te betrekken in hun onderzoek, die zelfs een interventie voor hen ontwikkelen en uiteindelijk concluderen dat dit een moeilijk bereikbare doelgroep is, die wantrouwend is, gezondheid niet belangrijk vindt en niet luistert naar goede adviezen. Het gevolg hiervan is dat gezondheidsonderzoekers vooral onderzoek doen naar mensen in een middelbare of hoge sociaal-economische positie. Want die kunnen ze tenminste bereiken en begrijpen. Stel je eens voor dat je van heel weinig geld moet rondkomen. Je hebt een dak boven je hoofd, maar je hebt geen geld om in de winter de verwarming aan te zetten. Je weet niet beter, want zo is het je hele leven al geweest. Dit is ook hoe je moeder en je vader opgroeiden en waarschijnlijk ook hoe je kinderen later zullen leven.
We're trying to stop the
je woont in een heel fijne buurt.
Meanwhile, maybe we can put on, meanwhile, I would like to ask you to get out your phone because we have a Slido, because we would like to ask the audience to think about, to reflect on this. And when you think about an inclusive partnership and paradigms and changing perspective and making assumptions about people outside of our boxes, what is the word or what is the phrase that comes to mind, and what should we do as a partnership maybe differently? If you can put that in the Slido. Meanwhile, I turn to the panel. Because I also would like to hear your reflections on the video, taking it to the context of a research and innovation partnership. Does anyone want to start voluntarily, or shall I volunteer someone? Anna?
Thank you. I can start. I think of community, and what does it mean to be in community? So I am not a researcher. I represent ICLE, which is a city network. So we're a membership organization with many local and regional governments. And so we are often a practice partner with researchers, and we are this bridge, so to say, and this knowledge broker, and helping to translate research into action or help develop these relationships. And so when I hear this video, I think of what does it mean to be in community or to work together, work with each other. Also thinking of a partnership, modeling that. Are we building our community and doing research together and participating in a partnership, participating in a community, or are we looking at my puzzle piece is different from your puzzle piece, forgetting that we have a whole puzzle that we're putting together? Those are the first kind of reflections that would come up for me, yeah.
Thank you.
Who we need to include in our activities. Only practitioners, dietitians, and so on, as presented earlier this morning. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's a very interesting question because inclusiveness practically is very important for the credibility of the research when we speak about food. So food is for everyone, as you said. That's why we cannot skip. At the parallel session this morning, we were discussing then whom to involve in the discussions. And there were slightly diverging opinions, but I said that everybody who wants to say something must be included. But we have to take into the consideration that there are such marginalized people that for whom to jump this threshold, to be part of whatever partnership is simply not imaginable, because they have so many barriers. They don't speak the necessary foreign language, they don't access the information, maybe they don't write and read. So there are so many different things that might come into the picture, and how to make the voice of such marginalized people heard. I think it's very important to see or to contact at least those people, I mean the social workers or similar activities, maybe volunteers, who can bring their point of view in the picture. Because we are all somehow privileged and to hear what others may say, or the situation of others might be very difficult for us to perceive. So that's why this video was very interesting.
Thank you. To try to give a different perspective, I think that there are two words in the slide that for me are important. One is proper education and the other is engagement. I think in this case we saw an example of how research cannot really engage all the target audience that could be involved in that kind of research, because maybe in that case there is a misconception on the fact that healthy eating is not something that is really relevant for that social class, while maybe is more thought to be for the lower classes and so on. So I think that education is very important, and in this sense I like the mention that was made before in the session before on the role of education and skills for the partnership. I think this is very important because every kind of bioeconomy innovation, from the food to the bio-based plastics to the bio-based materials to the agricultural sector, they are all different, but in all cases the education of the citizen is fundamental, and it's important that the public sector, the private sector and partnership like this one are aware of the important role that you have in this sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for reflecting, hearing some very interesting insights and perspective on this. I heard that everyone who wants to be included needs to be included, which talks to making sure that the outcomes, as you mentioned, of the partnership are inclusive, because that is the goal eventually in 2034. Okay. But there are also constraints, and you mentioned living labs as spaces where perspectives can change and where people can come out from their boxes and their circles and their bubbles to interact. So at those more localized spaces, magic can also happen. That's useful for the overall partnership. And you mentioned community and relationships, and we heard trust, and we heard also it takes time to build trust and to make this community. I mean, we've been working for 3 years now, and we are still, I mean, we are getting there, but we're still building trust. So I think that element of community and time is also important. And I wanted to go back to the word cloud. Thank you for all of you to putting your words and your perspectives in. And well, perspective stands out, accessibility. participatory approaches, diversity, there's also diversity of answers here, engagement, and co-designing. And I think that's also an interesting element. We talk about co-creation and co-designing, and it would be really great to see the partnership take that on. How do you really co-create these local spaces and enable all stakeholders to participate in a meaningful way? I'm looking at the time again. I still have a few minutes, right? Okay. So we have another question for you. Moving on, thinking about a partnership that you are or were involved in, something very specific, because we would like to get really specific now. And what can you say about the way it was built, about the inclusiveness or some of the other puzzle pieces that stood out, and how was it perceived by the various actors, and what can we learn from it? A lot of questions, but something you would like to reflect on?
So if I start, inclusivity for us means engaging the final users that are in general the industry. So in our case, we have 50% of the beneficiaries of our project that are industrial, 35% are SMEs, but also something quite novel in our case is the inclusion of the primary sector. This is a novelty of CBJU compared to the previous partnership, and we have seen that integrating some requirements and criteria on the inclusion of a multi-actor approach, we have in the first 3 years, we had about 70 organizations, primary producer engaged in the projects with about 8-9 million euro of funding devoted to that. So this is just a small example on how we can see inclusiveness of a sector that was not included in the past, but thanks to some modification, now is included in our partnership.
Thank you. And this is in the Circular Bioeconomy Europe initiative.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Once we are speaking about food system, and I have the chance to coordinate the activities, the technical part of the activities in the Commission for putting together the EU food system monitoring dashboard. So we have been working together now for more than 3 years, and this is really a silo-breaking exercise, even in the Joint Research Center, because the core team comes from 10 different units, and then we have many other ad hoc collaborators. What I would like to tell you, it is the process how we arrived to the first publication of the dashboard, because it was not at all an easy process. So what we are supposed to in the Commission all the time, when one of the services come up with a more important piece of work, like in our case the dashboard, then there is an inter-service consultation. So we had so it is a kind of ad hoc partnership. And then after the inter-service consultation, we also had a consultation with the outside world, with 2 groups. One of is the expert group, we call shortly expert group, but it is expert group on general food law and the sustainable food system. And the second group is the advisory group on sustainable food system. Both groups are coordinated by DG Santé. And these 2 groups came into the picture, and they had their say on the indicators what we thought that might be good for measuring the performance of the food system. So at the end of the day, we received more than 600 different comments. And it's not, you may say that, okay, you received 600, more than 600 comments, and what? But we really replied to each of them, one by one. And we were really investigating every of them. Of course, it took time. But I believe that without this step, without without respecting the efforts, what other people practically granted to us. It was really a trust that they were working with us, providing the opinion. We came back and with that we could arrive to a position which can be accepted by everyone. So I think sometimes the partnerships to streamline many different opinions is painful. I don't say that it is an easy exercise, but must be done, because otherwise you lose your credibility.
Thank you very much for this example and this huge undertaking of really taking the time to answer these 600 pieces of input, but thereby creating trust and showing that, yeah, there is something being done with their input. So.
Well, working for a funding body, I had low opportunity to work with on a co-creative manner, because funding body worked with funding body because we are scared of conflict of interest and so on. So Future Foods was the first real opportunity to build an ambitious program with researchers, ministries, competitiveness clusters, foundation. And we were facing an incredibly complex instrument, so the building was built on strong solidarity, trust, and a huge amount of goodwill, because it was so complex, so difficult that we have to be happy that we have a grant signed. We will celebrate soon our first year. We have lots of items, ways to improve, but as said Maroon yesterday, we still have 9 years. So we are on the way of improvement, and we will continue. So it's a huge consortium. For the moment, we are 83 partners. I mean, 83 institutions. So I fully trust my work package leaders who are doing great work and preparing the work and creating the synergies among partners, because it's super frustrating being coordinator of a partnership when you don't know all the partners. So I would like also to thank the organizer of the festival, because it helped me to put a face on an email address for some of my partners. So thank you so much for that. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that, Claude. And it is a huge and an impressive undertaking, and I really commend you all on it, because it's not easy. But I like what you say, and I assume your glass is half full, because you still have 9 years left to make the most of it.
I also like this putting faces to email addresses. I wanted to just extend something that Katalin was saying in terms of everybody who wants to be involved should be involved. I think one of the keys to success for partnerships that we've been involved in is also looking at, are there people who aren't saying they want to be involved, but maybe they need to know that they want to be involved. And sometimes, you know, we talk about inclusivity or engagement and co-creation, and they can be sometimes very vague. What does it mean? So how do we, what makes it meaningful? And sometimes that's looking at, there are spaces where it's okay to say, this is for this group, this is for that group, and then you bring them together. So also being mindful for meaningful inclusivity or meaningful exclusivity, as long as it's not putting up the hard boundaries, that there's this permeable and fluid movement between partnerships or groups that are being established. So I would like to just extend or challenge that point when I look to the work also that we did in the FOODPathS project with mirror groups or with some of the other kind of coalitions and partnerships that ICLE is involved in. It's also looking at who isn't there that maybe needs to be there, that we are missing something if they aren't there, and there's value that could be brought to them. And then it's up to them, of course, agency and choice, but I think this is an important key to success for some of the work that we've been involved in. I saw a stopping sign, so I'm stopping.
Thank you, Anna. And I think that is a great note to round up this I found it inspiring conversation. Are the people that are not saying they want to be involved, and how can we make this meaningful? And how can we really build a meaningful partnership? I think that's the question and the challenge ahead for all of us that are contributing. So thank you very much, all of the panelists. Thank you for your patience, because I know you're eager to go on the field visits and really get into action. And thank you so much for the UFIC team, because you've really guided this whole session and the whole festival in such a... Oh, and I need to stop. Thank you, Esra. And of course, Matteo, who couldn't be here. Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Okay, last announce. If you want to follow the capacity building, please go upstairs and look for the Gamay room. And otherwise, to go to La Ferme du Parc Maximilien, reach the lunch room. To No Waste Republic, the registration room, here for big. And after all, don't forget to take the quiz and listen the podcast. And if you don't want to join any activity, you have the posters, you can read them and network a little bit more. And thank you all.